This space for rent. This signal space to your ears for rent. This space between your ears for rent.
Do you have a product, service, website, company? Propose, perhaps? No, we don't want to do that, right?
If you can't propose?
Well, I mean, if you really wanted to propose...
It would be encased forever.
Johnny says, will you marry me, Susie? We could do that,
Yeah,
sure.
why not?
Sure not.
Yeah.
If you have a product or service or whatever to promote, people, especially that you want to promote to our listeners, why not become a sponsor?
A sponsor, you say?
Yeah, a sponsor of this program. Contact Mr. Lobo at his personal email. I'm giving this out right now just for you, okay?
Right.
Don't tell anyone, all right?
Whisper it.
Mr. Lobo, that's MRLOBO, at cinemaInsomnia.com. CINEMAINSOMNIA.com.
That sounds so sexy.
Yes. Mr. Lobo at cinemaInsomnia.com. Contact me and we will get you on the air. We will talk about your stuff.
Your stuff. I believe this is the point where we start the program.
Oh, that's right. So
what
why
do we
not
say?
we get this program started? All systems go.
Attention Sleepless Knights. Thank you for consuming this OSI 74 product broadcast live from the Black Knight satellite. For optimum performance and safety, your host, Mr. Lobo, asks that you please listen to these instructions carefully. When in a hospital or other healthcare facility, observe the restrictions on the use of electronic devices. Switch off before boarding an aircraft to prevent interference with communications systems. Do not operate this device in the presence of flammable gases or fumes, chemical plants, or where blasting operations are in progress. Always listen hands-free while driving a vehicle. Failure to observe these instructions may lead to immediate termination. It's time now for the show to begin. Thank you. Have a very pleasant evening.
You're not dreaming. This is the Sleepless Nights podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Lobo, and to my right is my co-host, Paul Sanders of BESTOW TV.
You know, I feel like it's been so long since we've done this last, but it feels like 30 minutes ago we just did a podcast.
It may feel that way to you, but I kind of forgot how it goes. I mean, I don't really remember how we did it.
Ironically, I'm still wearing the same clothes or lack thereof. So it's
Paul,
kind of
you're
interesting.
always wearing the same clothes.
That's true.
We're
I'm kind of like a Wookiee. I don't even really wear clothes.
Okay,
I just walk around
Paul,
with a bandolier.
Paul, we decided that we were not going to talk about Star Wars on this podcast, right?
But I'm not talking about Star Wars. I'm talking about. All right, let's move
Wookiees. Well, Wookiees. I mean, we do have what is a Bigfoot a Wookiee? So there's the Patterson footage of.
Well, it's like Chewie and the Hendersons. That's not a Star Wars movie.
3 Wookiees and a Baby is not a
Right.
Star Wars movie.
Right.
Chewbacca on Gilligan's Island.
Right.
Is not a Star Wars movie.
Right.
So that all existed before Star Wars.
Right. Lumpy and the Three Amigos.
Yes, that's right. A Lumpy. Star Wars
Sorry.
holidays. But no, we're really.
Wait, no,
let's
you did.
really
Now
not
I did
talk
not go
about
Star Wars, and you brought up holiday special.
holiday
and you
special.
brought up the negative of the negative. We're not allowed to talk about Star Wars, and then you bring up the thing that we're not even allowed, as Star Wars fans, we're not even allowed to talk about.
Yes, the foreboding fruit. I hate the Star Wars holiday special. People always go, oh, that's a piece of garbage, blah blah blah. I'm sorry. When I was 8 years old, that was magical.
Yeah.
I was captivated in the spell of that as an 8-year-old.
Yeah, and you were already okay with Grandpa watching virtual porn, which they came forward and said that that's what it was supposed to represent.
Oh, sure. Well, what else is
Yeah.
it? Yeah, Grandpa's looking at saucy babe talking
So
to him.
it's like porn exists in the Star Wars universe that we're not allowed
There's
to talk
porn
about.
in the universe, but all of that. The cartoon, that was the first time we ever saw Boba Fett, and it was exciting to spend the holidays with your favorite characters because
Even
were
though
our
they're
family.
absent from majority of the thing, and you had to speak Wookiee in order to understand it.
I enjoyed it, and as a kid, it was magical.
Because you were 8.
I was 8.
You were 8. You were 8. That would make me.
Not born.
No, I was born. I'm only 5 years younger than you, so that would make me 2.
2.
Maybe 1, because I'm born at the end of the year.
Okay.
I'm 2 days from the end of the year.
Okay.
So
So you were 1 year old, so you didn't see it at all.
no. Well, if I you know what I do remember?
Yeah.
I do remember having the Star Wars holiday record.
Oh yeah, Christmas in the Stars.
Yes, I do have that.
Christmas in the Stars.
And I wish I could find that because I wanted to know if that was in any way related.
Merry Christmas it will be. Christmas in the stars, out among the stars, shining like a Christmas tree.
Right.
Our hearts are full of joy, full of joy, full of joy, and music's in the air, in the air, in the air. No?
No, we're talking about Star Wars.
What do you get a Wookiee for Christmas when he already owns a comb? What can you get for a furry kind of friend like that?
I think,
to
can we
take
just
home?
go to Disco Star Wars and just end it there? Okay.
But we're not
No
talking about Star Wars.
That's
Not
it.
at all.
That was not Star Wars at all. That was Star Trek in disguise. It had
yeah.
the cloaking device on, and it may have sounded like Star Wars, but it was actually Star Trek.
Because anything that horrible would have to be like Star Trek Voyager or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Or Enterprise.
I kind of liked Enterprise.
You kind of liked Enterprise?
Kind of liked Enterprise.
Really?
I kind of liked Enterprise, but I didn't like Enterprise. Enterprise, to me, there was a little bit of something to it that you could like. I mean, it's just like the prequels that we're not talking about of that thing.
Yes,
but there is something to like about them too. They're not complete shit. Am I allowed to say shit?
No.
Well, damn it.
It's been a long road. See, that's the thing. I couldn't get past the Bon Jovi open there with Enterprise.
I guess. That's a sticking point.
There's
with you.
no butt rock in Star Trek.
That's your sticking point with the new movies too.
Yeah, no
You
butt
got
rock.
Beastie Cop, Beastie Boys.
Well,
Public,
that's not butt
Public
rock,
Enemy.
but they have rap in the new Star Trek, and I like. And I know people think that Mr. Lobo is a stuffed shirt in a square, but I like Public Enemy. You know, I like the Beastie Boys. I think they're in the upper percentile.
Do you think that Mr. Lobo should fight the power?
Fight the powers that be?
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Burn Hollywood, burn.
Right.
No, I mean, I
Well,
like.
you might as well burn Hollywood Burn. That was a movie about
Alan Smithy directed Burn Hollywood, burn.
and it was about Alan Smithy.
But what's
in that movie, Eric Idle plays you,
oh, well, it was probably
that-
an honor for
right?
him. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get royalties from that yet?
I did not get royalties from that. Still haven't got royalties from Dune. I didn't get royalties from Shrimp on the Barbie.
Right. What about the Birds too?
I didn't get royalties for the Birds 2 or Hellraiser 3 or 4. One of the Hellraisers.
Well, you should raise hell.
I should. If you don't know what we're talking about, on Facebook, my alter ego is Alan N. Smithy. And Alan Smithy is a name that directors would choose when they would not want to put their name on a project or if they had creative differences while making the film. So when Facebook did not allow me to be Mr. Lobo on Facebook, I decided that I had creative differences with Facebook, and I didn't, since I wasn't allowed to use my name, Mr. Lobo. I decided
Which is your name?
Which is my name. That's my last name. My natural given last name is Lobo, and I am Mr. Lobo. That's how I like to be addressed.
His birth name had no original first name.
And
He was born without a first name.
And so people like to, it's funny because now people are so comfortable now. Hey, Alan, hey, Alan, let's talk business, Alan. And I didn't realize that like this whole Mr. Lobo thing has like been holding me back. Where people are like, I probably say, hi, I'm Mr. Lobo. Like, Mr. Lobo, who does this guy think he is? You know what? He's trying to get me to give him some sort of respect that he didn't earn.
This guy,
How dare he?
This guy wearing a bad wig and
Yeah, this guy with the fake glasses and the bad wig and the suit. How dare he talk to me like that? I don't have to call him Mister. You know, because it's funny because like people, you know, it's like when you go to Starbucks and they want to put your first name on your latte or your dirty chai, mocha, guava, java, gaspuccino. When you get that and at the coffee place and they want to put your first name on it, what's your first name? And then I usually go, Mister. And they don't think that that's funny.
Right.
They think I'm an asshole. Oh, we can't say asshole. Yeah. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Do you think Mr.? I mean, do they give them a problem? Because they're like,
I don't know.
Can we have your first name? And they're like, Mister. Can we? All right. Well, we don't want your
you
first
give-
name. Can we have your last name instead? And they're like, Mister. And they're like, are you screwing with it? Can I say screwing?
Mr. No.
Fuck.
Mr. This is the candid talk people like, right? We're just being
banter.
We're just
We're
being
bantering.
dudes. We're being dudes,
Hey, dude.
regular dudes,
Surf's up,
couple
dude.
of bros.
Right. hanging with my homie,
drinking a beer. I love beer.
Wearing no pants.
And naked ladies, right? Beer and naked ladies and sports.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sports ball.
That's right. We're just regular guys like you, talking normal.
And you.
But when Mr. Now that's obscure. That's what's an 80s band, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. T, would you talk to Mr. T? Would you give Mr. T a hard time? Who are you really?
Yeah, I'd pity the fool that would give Mr. T a hard time.
Dr. Seuss. If you met Dr. Seuss, would you be like, "Hey Theo, yo, what's up?"
Yo, what's up?
Yeah.
Tired of you jibba jabba.
And the same of or the other people. There's Madonna and Mr. Spock. There's people who have names, and you just
Now you're talking
take it
about
as read.
Leonard Nimoy, Mr. Spock, or the actual Dr. Spock? Because it'd be Dr. Spock, wouldn't it?
Well, isn't there an actual? If Mr.
Right.
Spock was an actual person,
Right, but there is an actual person.
But there's
called
a-
Spock.
but it's
He's a
Mr.
therapist.
Spock.
Is
It's
it Mr.
Dr. Spock.
It's Dr. Spock.
Yeah.
He's a therapist
Yeah, and then Dr. Spock.
or a self-help, or I don't know.
It used to be, if you met someone, unless you knew them very well, there was no need to even know their first name. It's like, here's your coffee, whatever,
Mr.
Mr. Manson. So
Marilyn. I want your first, and you're screwing with me. Marilyn Manson. Who? All right.
how dare you? Anyway, so we're gonna talk about something else. We're gonna get past first names and last names for our second part of the show. We promise.
Man, we're good at killing time.
Yeah. Oh, we are great at killing time.
If there was a master's degree in killing time, I think we would be the masters of that. We would hold a doctorate in the masters.
We'd
of
be the
killing
misters.
time. Mr. Masters.
Masters.
Masters of the universe.
Misters of the universe.
Misters of
That's
the
my new movie.
Mr. Masters of the universe.
Mr. of the universe. All right. Thank you very much for putting up with this garbage. We're going to try to get it, reel it back in, get it back on track for the second half.
No guarantees on that one.
But we're going to have a short break. Maybe I'll warm up my tea, and we'll be right back with more Sleepless Nights of Insomnia after this.
Christmas in the stars, Christmas in the stars. What a merry Christmas this will be.
Attention, Insomniacs. Your movie host, Mr. Lobo, is planning a 16th anniversary season of Cinema Insomnia. Do you want more misunderstood movies and madcap slumber party fun? Well, join us. Join our supercore at patreon.com/cinema insomnia. You can get exclusive perks and help us make this 16th season your favorite Cinema Insomnia season ever. Become one of our patrons. Patrons? Patreons. Patrons. I think you're a patron at Patreon. Yeah, I believe that's how that goes.
Does Tron go to Patreon?
Oh, I hope so. I love Tron.
Okay.
Patreon.com/cinema insomnia. That's patreon.com/cinema insomnia. Patreon. Patreon. Visit our friends at horrornews.net, a popular horror genre site covering all aspects of the horror industry, plus paranormal, cult, fantasy, and extreme action. Great articles, interviews, trailers, and more. You can find it all at horrornews.net. That's horrornews.net. R2-D2, we wish you a Merry Christmas. R2-D2, we love you. It's true. R2-D2, we wish you a Merry Christmas. A Merry Christmas. We hope our little message gets to you.
We're not talking about Star Wars.
No, not at all.
No Star Wars.
That was
No.
also from the Star Wars Christmas. I think it's called Christmas in the Stars, which is a Star Wars Christmas album, which had nothing to do with the Star Wars.
See, that's
holiday
weird because
special.
my childhood memory ties those two things together. One is they are tied together.
Just spit it out. I don't know. I don't know what word you're trying to say.
They are tied together.
They're tied together. Fine. I get you.
When I guess in reality they're not. They
They're two
exist.
separate
They're two separate
projects.
projects. George Lucas has not gone on record saying, "I wish I could destroy these." Well, records.
He hasn't said that. No,
Right. He doesn't disavow them.
He doesn't disavow the Christmas record, but he disavows the holiday special.
Correct.
So it's kind of a war on Christmas issue more than it is a Star Wars issue.
Right.
he's not down with Life Day. It's got to be it's about the reason for the season.
Right, but isn't Life Day on the record?
No,
there's not a song about
No,
Life
it's
Day?
about Jesus.
Oh.
No, the Star Christmas
Space
special
Jesus?
is about
Space
Space
Jesus.
Jesus. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Anakin. So
Yeah.
essentially,
Look, listen to the
if this was
look,
if
listen
this
to-
is if this is retroactive, it's about Anakin
Listen
because
to
he's
the,
Space Jesus.
No. Listen to the lyrics of the song. The odds against Christmas being Christmas are 365 to 1. Christmas, you see, could have easily never ever begun. The odds against Christmas being Christmas, against love being born at all. See, they're really talking about Jesus.
Right.
Is so very large that all other odds would seem terribly, terribly small. You see how lucky we are? See, so 3PO's talking about Jesus.
So in a galaxy far, far away, and a
Yeah.
long, long time ago, apparently Jesus was stillborn. Not stillborn,
Still-
but still born. There's a comma there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because that could be controversial talking about stillborn Jesus. That could
we're going to be getting hate mail.
Yeah, we're going to get the hate mail right now. Let's just switch gears totally because we're not
talking about Star Wars. No
We're
Star
not
Wars.
talking about Star Wars.
That was the Star Wars holiday
Christmas
album.
album. We were just clarifying the difference between the holiday special and the
holiday
Christmas album.
album.
Christmas album holiday special.
Right.
So Paul is a director of video, producer of video.
That's what I hear.
I'm a producer and also, I guess, talent, a personality, right? I wouldn't classify myself as an actor.
Well, you've got personality.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that.
That personality makes up for shortcomings.
I have personality defects for sure.
All right. Don't we all?
Just keep your shortcomings to yourself.
Gross.
So anyway, Paul and I met at RetroCon.
In 2015.
Wow, that seems like ages ago.
Yes.
And then
We've
how did
actually
we-
technically we met before. I produced at the time. I produced two shows. Creative Continuity, which is an interview show. Bonus Content, which was a montage show.
Okay.
And then bonus content has recently been changed to cos-tunes.
Mm-hmm.
And you were on bonus content since 2013. You're in the background in 2013. I didn't really interact with you in 2013. 2014,
okay.
you're specifically in the video. You were doing your, the glasses pointing.
Oh,
at the button,
okay.
the
So
whole-
that was cosplay from hell. Was that short?
No, that was something that came later. That came in 2015.
Oh, okay.
And then in 2015, you did a bit for bonus content, and then we did a quick interview for Creative Continuity, which got tacked on to the end of the video. I think it's the video with Angry Video Game Nerd is on it, and Doug Walker, the Nostalgia Critic, is on it, and then you're
In the middle there.
you're in the credits there because
I'm in the YouTube sandwich.
yeah, it was a very, very brief overview of it. It wasn't an in-depth interview because at the time, I think Harold had left at the time, so I didn't have an official person to do the interview. So
Yeah.
we just did something quick. And then you'd latched on like right away. You're like, oh, I'm starting this thing called OSI 74, and it's on this thing called a Roku. Do you know what a Roku is, kid? And it's funny you called me kid at the time. But,
Yeah, it is strange because I don't talk like that.
Yeah,
But yeah.
And, well, in my memory, you do, and the holiday special is tied to the.
You're all clear, kid.
But you would take me back to your table and you'd give me all these pamphlets of everything that was coming out and stuff like that. And you're
The
like,
end times that were coming.
Yeah, because you're like, you have a camera and I have a camera, and you do things and I do things. You need to be on my channel. Yeah.
Boy, is that how I sound? What a pretentious twit.
Well,
I must
listen to the podcast afterwards, and you'll see that I'm not too far off from base.
All right.
But yeah, and I think shortly thereafter, you had contacted me through Facebook. I don't think you emailed me, but you contacted me through Facebook, and you wanted you're like, how good are you at After Effects? And I'm like, well, not that good. I'm more better at Premiere than After Effects, but what do you want? And you had me do some bumpers. So those bumpers have been on the channel since 2015, and those bumpers, the lower third graphic bumpers, are stuff that I did for the channel. That was my dedication to the channel.
And you did the lower third graphic, and you also did the ratings. We did the.
That's right. Yes, the ratings and the fair use warning.
No, the fair use warning we made. The fair use warning.
Wasn't there a different one? Maybe.
I think you did all the ratings.
Let's agree to agree.
We'll agree to agree. Sure. No, I think
I did do the ratings.
You
The ratings,
definitely
because I
did.
dirtied. You gave me the ratings were written up. I dirtied them up, and then I added the music.
Music, yeah.
And then I gave you a version without the music. I'm like, if you don't
Yeah.
like the music, you don't have to.
And
And
it
ended up everybody used it with the music anyway.
Yeah.
because it's like this just adds something.
It makes it consistent, and I remember going to the movie theaters and watching things on TV, and all those little things those little bumps that they played on HBO about the ratings, that all seemed part of the show. That was the part of the feel and the branding of early cable shows, and even local UHF and VHF broadcast stations. All those little bumpers of the ratings and parental discretion is advised. All those little things kind of stick in your head, and you start to build in your mind the brand of the station, and have those things have a certain feel. So I wanted to create that for our channel, and so I wanted to have some retro styled bumpers and ratings, and I knew that we're going to have a lot of different content. And I wanted people to, I didn't want to censor any of the content, but I wanted to warn.
You wanted people to
They want people to know people what they're getting into.
right, and creators could self-censor it if they choose to.
Yeah,
If they knew that if they were too saucy or whatever. But I think like even with us is like we didn't really self-censor too much, because it's like why hold back? Why tell people that we're interviewing and stuff to not be themselves? We want them to be themselves. We just chart it appropriately.
Yeah,
we try to take responsibility of rating it ourselves.
Self-rating, and everyone who submits content to OSI 74, they have access to those ratings, and they can say, okay, is this intended for a mature audience? Is there violence? Is there nudity? Is there language? And to just label it, just so people know before getting into it.
So it's kind of interesting. Since 2015, I pretty much touched everything that's on OSI.
Yeah, and indirectly, inappropriately.
Inappropriately sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean,
And then-
there's
so-
no Weinstein about this. There was consent.
All right. So
We're not
then-
going that
So then
direction.
after that,
No Star Wars, no Weinstein.
I did a graphic for you for Cosplay from Hell.
You did more than a graphic for me. I wanted to
Voiceover?
I wanted to do a bit that was outside, that was scripted. I wanted to lean towards a little bit of a scripted piece. So it was the Cosplay from Hell, and I'm like, I need an announcer to kind of here's the script. I need this kind of announcer thing, and it's kind of weird because I didn't really know your background at the time, so it's weird that it's so appropriate. The piece is so appropriate for who you are.
Yeah.
And we had the voiceover, we had the graphics, and I said, for shits and giggles, I'm not allowed to say shit.
No.
Crap. We did it's like let's shoot some B footage of yourself doing things, and I'll throw it in there, so that you can get some visual representation too. I don't know how much. I think you got a little bit of visual representation because there's a bit where it's like it credits everybody.
Yeah, it was kind of like Love Boat, and Mr. Lobo, and I
Mr.
like
Lobo.
wink at the camera or point at the camera.
And I think you're in. There's an outtake scene at the end too, where it shows you and you're drinking out of a tiki glass and choking on the straw or some sort of
Yeah. And somehow, since you have an interview show and you didn't have a current interviewer or host, you had got some access to Trauma. With meeting with Lloyd Kaufman.
Many years, Trauma has been at, when I had met them at New York Comic Con, they were always like, "Oh, well, you can come up there, come up to." Whoa.
Trauma is the oldest independent studio in America,
And they kept inviting me
they-
up they kept inviting me up to do a tour, and I'm like, well, I have a camera. If I'm going to your place, I want to get this on tape, but I never had the host to link it together. Go ahead and tell them who Trauma is. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No,
on
that's
that.
okay. You had dropped your beverage, so I wanted to make sure that I was just covering for you. I was in those old movies. They say "cover me," and it's like Troma is the oldest independent studio, and they're famous for cult and exploitation films, most notably The Toxic Avenger. And Lloyd is kind of a fixture in the independent film community. And
They're pretty much the only ones that are left from the old guard, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
45 years, 40 years?
Over 40 years for sure. It could be going on 45 years because they 74 is when they started. And that's something that's 43 years or something. I don't know.
So can we let's
Too much
wrap this
math.
up and we'll put a pin on it.
So
and then-
when we come back, we will talk about us touring Trauma Studios.
spoilers.
The odds against Christmas being Christmas are
365 to 1.
What awaits you in the House of Seven Corpses is more than a fear you can't explain, a fate you can't prevent, a death you can't escape. The House of Seven Corpses holds a deadly secret. You must see it to believe it. There are 8 graves, 7 bodies, 1 killer, and he's already dead. International Amusement Corporation presents The House of Seven Corpses. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested. Death waits in the House of Seven Corpses.
That's what you get a Wookie for Christmas when he already owns a comb.
Last time before the commercials at Tromo Tour.
Oh, yeah, before the commercials. There was, sorry, that was Mike. It's your turn.
Oh, okay.
Before the commercials, we were talking about going to Troma, which is the oldest independent studio, and again they started out doing adult films, and then they moved into doing.
I don't believe Lloyd likes you calling them porn.
No,
He didn't do porn. He did art.
Yeah, he didn't study the great masters and then make porn. He studied the great masters and made art.
I just passed go. Can you pay me $200?
All right, there you go. There you go.
Thanks.
Hold on. All right, okay.
Should I king you?
Yeah, and I connect 4.
Okay.
So we went to go see Troma, and we had so that was the first project we ever really did together.
Right.
And we met with Dylan, who was a young
and John.
John Brennan, who produces the Kabuki Man talk show, which you can sometimes see on OSI 74, and is of course on Troma now.
And has a special appearance by whom at some point? Or are we allowed to talk about that?
We can. Mr. Lobo is in the Kabuki Man talk show. But we also got to meet with Toxic Avenger. And we also got to meet with, again, Dylan, a young independent filmmaker who works there as a editor. Dairy editor, is that a filmmaking term?
That's what he said at the tour. I don't know. I mean, that tour was how many years ago? So he may have since.
So we went to New York. We toured their whole facility. They have an amazing archive of thousands of films. And
all right, you got to move back 2 spaces.
Oh, dang! All right. Well, you lose a turn.
Okay. Go ahead again.
So we went to Troma, and we had this amazing tour. And we got to see, we get to meet all the key characters, and we filmed it, and we had a great time. But then we sat on the footage for like a year, right?
Well, the thing was, I guess the whole point of this Troma tour thing was, I mean, I think we sort of skipped ahead here, was that this is the first project that we actually teamed up together. And it wasn't a creative continuity project, and it wasn't a Cinema Insomnia project.
Right.
It was both. And we combined efforts from both shows. So you kind of hosted the creative continuity, but then we still did the wraparounds to make it a Cinema Insomnia. I mean, there's a lot of C's going around here, so it gets tongue-tied.
It was almost 3 projects together because it was kind of it was a sort of a special about Troma, and it was made with the cooperation of Troma.
Right hand green.
Yahtzee. And it was made with their cooperation, and something that, and then Paul had his show and I had my show, so it was like a 3-way crossover. Really,
that sounds so dirty.
It did sound dirty, and we ended up calling it Troma Tour 5000,
which was a weird element. I think it always was Troma Tour.
Yes.
It was just always Troma Tour, and then it just became. it has to be something else. Like we always had to ramp it up to 11, add one more thing,
Yes.
turn that knife another time, and I think the 5K came out of it. So it was a 5,000.
And I think that we may do other 5,000s. You know, if we did an in-depth tour of Guar's slave pit, or if we did an in-depth tour of anything, you know, or the making of a movie.
My wizard casts magic missile. Do I kill the dragon?
You have to roll for initiative.
Critical. Cool.
All right. I guess we should probably focus more on
Put this game away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's put this down here.
All right. Just remember that I where I was at that. You know, I was.
Yeah, I'll hold your place.
Okay. Cool.
So we did this original piece, which was sort of a collaborative effort, and it was complicated. We had a lot of footage, and then was a whole interview with Lloyd on top of that.
Correct. There was.
Which
we
was-
spent an entire day there shooting.
Yeah.
Like we arrived pretty early and left pretty late.
And they rolled out the red carpet, and we were there for hours, and we got lots and lots of footage. And then our lives got busy, and we weren't able to get back to putting it together.
Right. With my schedule, what happens? We shot in February of 2000. What did I say? We met up in 15, so it was February of 2016 was when we finally shot this thing. And for me, con season started, so it was always. I think I had semi-retired creative continuity, so I wasn't shooting the interviews, but I was still shooting the montages. So the montages, going to conventions and doing all that stuff kind of got in the way. You had Cinema Insomnia stuff, OSI stuff, and that kind of got in the way. That was the heat of that time because you were launching the channel at that time too.
Yeah, and that was I mean, to be honest, running a channel is not for the squeamish. That is a really we still don't really have enough help to do this properly. But we OSI 74 is a great undertaking. We have 17 different producers that we work with, and Paul is one of those producers. We've had creative continuity and things on there in the past, and then we prepared. We finally got to the business of preparing the Trauma Tour, and since it was a Cinema Insomnia crossover, Paul had to familiarize himself with Cinema Insomnia, watch the episodes, and then we recreated.
Or so I said.
Yes, or so you said. And then we recreated the set here at OSI headquarters.
There was some stuff that was pre-planned. You know, we had chatted up. There was some stuff that was a lot of on the spot, where it's like, I have an idea. This is going to be here. I think for the most part, it was edited. It was edited, just the raps were missing. Mm-hmm. So we knew where we stood, and we knew when we made the raps what we were going to talk about.
There were holes when we put it all together,
Right,
and then we used the wraparound segments, as you should.
Right.
Use the wraparound segments to help bridge all the footage together.
But there was things like we always knew that Marilyn was going to be a part of the scene.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, at the time, I didn't know about Marilyn. I had brought my own camera up.
Yeah,
And
Marilyn
you're like,
is
well,
what
we can go into our archives. We can go and we can recall something. And it was like, yeah.
Marilyn is Mr. Lobo's old VHS camcorder.
Now,
from
Marilyn
the 80s.
or Maryland?
Yeah, you had it Maryland in the credits originally, like Baltimore, Maryland, and it's Maryland like Marilyn Monroe.
That's because it was a stunt double.
Yes. But now it should be Maryland, Maryland Monroe, forever. But we had this storyline of that somehow Mr. Lobo finds this old tape with the Trauma Tour footage on
Yeah,
it.
it was the idea of that we recorded this and then we just completely forgot about it. Because when would you say we recorded it? Around November? Maybe it was September? I'm going to say September. I was going to say it was before Halloween. It was before the holidays rolled around. So only like September, maybe August, September, around there.
So there were many months in between.
So there was
almost a year,
long time, and it's like, you know, we kind of dropped the ball on this and stuff. We got busy. Let's pick this back up, and you know, let's make fun of it.
Yeah, we made fun of ourselves as far as like, oh wow, we shot all this great footage and did nothing with
Right,
it.
because it was like, you know, we have no hook, and then almost a half a year later, it's like, well, now we have a hook. We have something to make fun of. We're just going to make fun of ourselves.
Yeah.
And that was the main thrust of this, of Mr. Lobo finding Maryland.
Yeah.
Ejecting it, finding the tape in there and going, oh,
Yeah, right.
You know.
So, and then we created an intro combining the creative continuity intro and the cinema.
Yeah, and if you listen to the music, the music's actually a little bit meshed. There's a little bit of bass from the creative continuity mixed into what's the name of the song?
Stompin' at 3 a.m. is the name of the theme.
So
of
there's stomping at 3 a.m. and then there's a little bit of the creative continuity. Dun, 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 dun. And as a matter of fact, the creative continuity starts it and it does the arrows and then it goes right into stomping at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Nice little mesh of the.
A nice little mixture. And again, at the beginning of our collaboration, and Paul and I have had a lot of collaborations and since then.
And I wanted to point out that the biggest joke that we did, and one of my favorite jokes, is the fact that it took so much time that you look different from the time we actually recorded this. Your hair was your hair was longer then and it was shorter now, and so on and so forth. And we're like, I'm sort of a stickler for continuity. That's why I have a show called Creative Continuity. So, it's like, well, how do we make this fit and still make fun of ourselves and stuff? So if you look at the flashback scene, I don't know if it translates the same for everybody, but Lobo is looking in the mirror of my car and clipping his hair and doing a haircut, just as if it's like, oh yeah, we're going to do this tour. I'm not going to clean myself up before this tour, and then I'm just going to cut my hair immediately after the tour in the parking lot.
In the parking lot, looking in the rearview mirror, I'm going to be cutting my own hair.
But it was also the main thrust of the story of, oh well, here's the camera, don't lose the tape kind of idea,
Yeah.
And then it was a realization of, oh, I forgot about this whole thing even happening.
Yeah. And we got to establish the old camera as being part of the story.
And bringing it back.
So your homework is to go onto YouTube, Bestow TV, and to watch Trauma Tour 5000.
YouTube.com/BestowTV, correct.
And it's also collected on the Mr. Lobo Facebook or YouTube as well.
I know we're running out of time here, but I wanted to throw in one more creative element that we did was when it went to YouTube, and because I have upload restrictions of how long it takes to get things, that Trauma Tour was actually split into, originally 3 parts, and then it became 4 parts, with the Lloyd Kaufman interview being the 4th part. And that took a creative bent on its own. It became its own thing, where part 2 had a previously, which is so like kind of absurd and stuff, especially in a digital age where you can just go back and watch the other thing. And the previously bits all make fun of TV genre. They always made fun of
lawyer shows,
TJ Hooker and all that. Like the first one is more action packed, and the second one is more like Law and Order and stuff like that. There's stock footage of lawyers walking down the hall and
things that never happened.
Yeah, things that never happened.
Yeah.
There's a shot of China. Yeah. I threw in a stock footage shot of China, and it's like, this makes
previously
sense.
On the previously.
So and then when it came back around to OSI,
we cut a different version.
We dropped that, but then we do have a version that has the previouslys on there, but they're collected on their own. I don't think it hit the channel yet.
We did that for when we just had the interview standalone, I think.
That's correct.
And we had all the previous.
So that is on the channel
together.
right now.
Yeah, that is on the channel, and if it's not fully active, if it's rotated out, I'll have it popped up there.
Well, I think we have a different version because that was Lloyd Kaufman on his own. We do have a version that has all of it together with the interview, because the Lloyd Kaufman interview got edited way down the line because that was a huge undertaking on its own. Yeah. Lloyd was off the wall. And stuff.
Lloyd was really off the wall. If you see this interview, it's crazy. It really is crazy. He's suicidal through parts of it, and that's not a joke. He really is. So it's really interesting and fun. And so I think we got some things out of Lloyd that people who know Lloyd feel like, wow, you really got a lot of really good stuff out of Lloyd. Lloyd is sometimes hard to pin down, and I think. Paul and I got a good interview out of him.
A lot of good stuff. A lot of stuff we still quote. So we're about 2 minutes over time. So I guess we'll cut it.
Wrap
here.
it up. We'll thank our Patreon supporters.
Hopefully we answered every question and told that story properly.
Thank our Patreon supporters personally this time, but we will of course thank them generally.
I will give you a huge thank you and a thumbs up, a virtual thumbs up, which is 10 times better than a real thumbs up.
A virtual hug,
a
virtual spooning, if you will.
Yeah, but I'm the big spoon always.
Paul's always the big spoon, yes, whenever we're doing conventions, but we won't get into that.
Yeah. We'll let Aaron come on and talk about that.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for indulging our madness here.
No, thank you.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the audience. We're going to have more of this somehow next week on the Sleepless Nights of Insomnia.
I'm going to do quick tags. Go to facebook.com/Mr. Lobo. Go to twitter.com/Mr. Lobo. Our YouTube, we're still 9 subscribers short, so there is a Mr. Lobo page, but it currently doesn't have an easy access. Trauma Tour can be found at www.youtube.com/BestowTV. Or on your Roku device, if it's not rotated out, we'll make sure to rotate it back in, and you can find some Trauma Tour and enjoy it. One quick thing is that, we could possibly do a director's commentary on one of these podcasts for Tromator. And I would like to hear from our Patreon supporters of whether or not they want that to happen.
Yeah, have we already exhausted that white elephant? If that's even a term.
Never.
But if you'd like us to talk more about it,
or any movie.
or anything.
Or Cinema Insomnia in general.
Would you want us to do...
Or not Star Wars.
Or not Star Wars. Do a commentary on something we've shot or something we haven't shot or something that we might shoot.
Something we shot in our head. We can do a commentary.
I'm ready to shoot myself right now.
All right, let's wrap this up.
Okay, thank you for joining us for the Sleepless Nights of Insomnia.
Bye.